In this video, I will explain how to track embedded Hubspot forms with Google Tag Manager and how to send those events to Google Analytics 4. Hey, my name is Julius and welcome to the Analytics Mania YouTube channel, where I teach how to work with Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. And if you want to stay up to date with GTM, then consider subscribing. Hubspot is one of the most popular CRM platforms in the world. One of the features that they offer is forms that can be embedded on your website. If someone submits that form, you would probably like to see that fact in Google Analytics. Why? Because by tracking form submissions in GA, you will also know the traffic sources that brought those submissions to you. In this video, I will explain how to send HubSpot form submissions as events to GA4. Let's take a look. Here I have a demo page with the embedded HubSpot form. And if I just enter some test information and submit the form, a success message is displayed. Now, to save you some time, I will tell you that the built-in Google Tag Manager form trigger will not work. The element visibility trigger will also not work. If you have tried to apply some other form tracking methods, they will also not work. If you want to track embedded HubSpot forms, you will need to use some custom code that is provided by the team of 3 white hats. I will post a link to this blog post below the video. In this blog post, they are using this code snippet that you need to implement in your Google Tag Manager container in order to start seeing some form submission events in the preview mode of GTM. So now I will copy this entire code, then go to Google Tag Manager, tags, and then click New. Then in the tag configuration, click Anywhere and select Custom HTML tag. Paste the code and then add the trigger to this tag. It should fire on all pages where you have your HubSpot forms embedded. Let's say that in my case, that newsletter form is available on every page. Therefore, I will click Anywhere in the triggering section and then I will select all pages. This code is a listener that will be looking for particular HubSpot events and, to be more precise, form submission events. And when the form is submitted, this listener will push some data, for example, this event name, to the data layer. Usually I name this kind of tags like this, CHTML, this stands for custom HTML, and then I enter something like HubSpot listener. Click Save. Now I will enable the preview mode of Google Tag Manager and test whether this listener is working. Click the preview button in the top right corner of the GTM interface. Then enter the URL of the page where HubSpot form is embedded and click Connect. Now I see that my preview mode is connected and let's submit the form. I see the success message and now let's go to the preview mode of Google Tag Manager. In the preview mode, I see the HubSpot form success event. So this is good because since I have submitted the form, I see that event right here. If I click it and if I expand that data layer push right here, I will see the event name and the form ID. This is the same form ID that you can see in the URL of your HubSpot account when you're editing that form. And the form ID is visible right here. Now let's send this form submission event to Google Analytics 4. In my Google Tag Manager container, I already have the GA4 configuration tag. And in this tutorial, I presume that you already have some basic knowledge of Google Analytics 4, and you already have this tag as well in your container. If you have no idea what this is and you want to install the basic tracking code in your Google Tag Manager container, I will post a link to another tutorial that teaches how to install GA4. You will find that link below the video. So our plan will go like this. We are going to create a Google Analytics 4 event tag that will send an event when this HubSpot form success event appears in the preview mode. First, let's create a trigger for this because we have to instruct Google Tag Manager that this event is important to us. Let's go to Google Tag Manager, Triggers, then click New, Trigger Configuration, and then click Custom Event. In this field, you have to enter the name that is right here, and that is HubSpot Form Success, without any quotation marks and exactly as it is right here. Let's paste this, and then I will name this trigger. The name right here does not matter, but this is very important that it is exactly as it is right here. Save the trigger. Together with that form submission event, let's also send the form ID because maybe you have multiple HubSpot forms on your website and you want to distinguish somehow which exact form was submitted. So let's create a variable in Google Tag Manager that will return this ID. Because if we want to use this in GTM, we have to create a variable. Let's go to Google Tag Manager, Variables. In the user-defined variables section, click New, variable configuration, and then select data layer variable. We're using this type of variable because that ID is stored in the data layer. And in this field, we have to enter this name because we want this variable to access this particular parameter in the data layer. So let's copy it and paste it like that. And then I will name the variable. I usually start that with DLV, which is data layer variable, and then what kind of parameter am I accessing? Click Save. Now the final step is to create a GA4 event tag that will send this information to Google Analytics 4. Let's go to Google Tag Manager, Tags, click New, and then click Tag Configuration. Then select GA4 event, select your existing configuration tag, and then in the event name, you can enter anything you want, like form submission, form, or something like that. However, Google recommends that you use a specific event name for form submissions, and that event is called Generate Lead. Together with this event, we also want to send this value, and we can do that by clicking the Event Parameters section, Add Row, and then entering any parameter that you want. For example, form ID makes sense in this case. In the value field, let's insert the data layer variable that we have just created that accesses this field. So in the value field, let's click this button and then select data layer variable. The final step in our Google Tag Manager configuration is the moment when we want this tag to fire. And that can be done in the triggering section. Click anywhere right here and then select that custom event trigger. Save the tag. I usually name them like that, GA4 event, and then the event name that was entered right here. Click Save. Let's test whether this is working properly. To refresh the preview mode, click this button right here. And once you see that this is successfully connected, now let's submit the form. Click Submit. We see the success message. In the preview mode, I see that data layer event. Click it, and then you will see that your Generate Lead event has successfully fired. Now let's check whether this tag actually properly sent the data to Google Analytics. And you can do that by going to GA4 property, then go to Configure, Debug View, and then in the Debug View, you will see that one of the events that was received is Generate Lead. The reason why I see this with the green icon, even though you are probably seeing this with the blue icon, is because I have configured Generate Lead to be considered as a conversion. And that can be configured in the conversion section right here, but I will not dive deeper into this topic in this video. And if you want to learn more about conversion tracking with GA4, I will post a link below this video. So let's go back to the debug view. Let's click on that Generate Lead event, and you will see a bunch of parameters, and one of them is form ID. If I click it to expand, I will see the ID that is available right here. If you want, you can also check the variables tab while having this event selected, and you will see that this is the value that our data layer variable returns. If we go back to Google Analytics 4, within 24 hours, you will start seeing that Generate Lead event in the events section of the configure, so somewhere in this list. Also, you will start seeing that event in the reports, and then click on Engagement Events. But again, keep in mind that this data will not appear in real time, and it most likely will appear just the next day. And one last thing, let's go back to Configure, Debug View, and click on that Generate Lead event. If you want to use this form ID in your reports, for example, explorations, you must register this as a custom dimension in the GA4 property, because otherwise you will not be able to see that or use that in your reports. So to do that, we should go to Configure and Custom Definitions, then click Create Custom Dimensions. And here you should enter the name of the parameter. In our case, that is form_ID, because this is the parameter that we have configured in our Generate Lead event right here. So form ID. And we want to tell that we want to see this parameter in reports. Now the question is, what should be the name, or you can also call it the label of this parameter? How would you like to see it in your reports? In my case, I can name it something like that, form ID. But you are free to use any other name right here. Make sure that the scope is event and click Save. So within 24 hours after you have completed this configuration, you will start seeing the Generate Lead event and the form ID parameter, or actually dimension, in your reports of Google Analytics 4. So once you made sure that everything is working properly, don't forget to click Submit in your Google Tag Manager container, and then complete all the steps in order to publish these changes live. And that is how you can send HubSpot form submission events to Google Analytics 4 with Google Tag Manager. Don't forget to register the custom dimension as I have explained in this video. If you found this video useful, then hit the thumbs up button below the video because it helps me continue working on this channel. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics 4, then consider subscribing to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.